1, 2, 3.
Welcome to the Mental Reps Podcast, featuring your host, Brian Wright.
I've heard you describe the bald eagle, and not such a high... what do you have to say about the bald eagle, and why do you hate America so much?
Our guest this episode is Goodwill Ambassador of Zoo Miami, Ron Magill.
Come on, see, now you sound like Levitard or Castanova or any of those guys always trying to bust my chops.
This week's episode is sponsored by The Field Irish Pub and Eatery, a little piece of island in South Florida.
The bald eagle is a spectacular bird. It's a beautiful bird. Having said that, it's basically a vulture with a good PR.
Now fade out that fresh as beat, and let's start the show.
Welcome to Mental Reps Podcast. I'm Brian Wright. How's it going? I hope you're happy and healthy. Thank you so much for tuning in and spreading the word about this show. I am having so much fun with this man. It's been a blast talking to these amazing people. I hope you're enjoying it as well. So please give us a like, comment, subscribe, share, all the things. That really is the difference between this thing fading out or continuing to grow. So I can't tell you, yes, you, how much I appreciate you spreading the word, supporting us along the way, for real. Like, really good looking out. Please don't stop either. We're on all the social medias, all the streaming platforms, and we're only getting better. I have some big news this week. First off, when planning who I wanted on for the big episode 50, I thought, why not shoot for the stars? I keep getting these great guests, so why not reach out to this legend of a man? And he agreed to chat with me. We spoke for about 45 minutes. My guest today is the man, the myth, the legend, Ron Magill. He's a wildlife expert, communications director, and Goodwill Ambassador of Zoo Miami, where he spent 40 years. Born in New York, but moved to South Florida when he was like 12 years old. Got an associate's degree at University of Florida, so he's a Gator, where he played basketball as a walk-on, which I didn't know about, only to leave in 1980, a few credits shy of getting his bachelor's to become a zookeeper at Zoo Miami, which was then Crandon Park Zoo. And the rest is history. In 2006, he received the Wildlife Ambassador Award. He is a 5-time Emmy Award winner. He's had his own Spanish-speaking show for over 25 years called Wild Kingdom with Ron Magill. I'm a gringo, so cannot pronounce it in Spanish. But he's also appeared with his animals on TV shows like The Late Show with David Letterman, Good Morning America, Today Show, as well as documentaries on the History Channel, Discovery Channel. He also has a weekly segment on the Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gatz, where fans get to call in and ask him questions about wildlife. That's where I first discovered him. I mean, the guy consulted with animators of the original Lion King to perfect the movement of the animals. So that's really all you need to know right there. This guy has inspired generations of people, not only in South Florida, but around the world, to get involved in animal conservation and increase their love for the wild kingdom. So please enjoy my chat with Ron Magill. But before that, we have some more huge news this week. The Field Irish Pub and Eatery, South Florida's authentic Irish pub, is now an official sponsor of Mental Reps Podcast. I cannot tell you how happy I am to have them involved with the show. I've been going there for almost 20 years now, and it really is like a little piece of Ireland right here in South Florida. You walk up to see this giant banyan tree in the front, giving some shade to the outdoor patio and the full bar there, only to walk in and realize this thing started as a house, which they've turned into 5 dining rooms with an indoor pub, full bar. Such a unique spot. I've never seen anything like it. But beyond all the aesthetics and everything, they have it where it counts. First off, their Guinness. Oh, the Guinness. It's the best damn Guinness I've ever tasted. It tastes like a friggin' milkshake. And they have the best Irish American food in South Florida, period. They got the shepherd's pie, fish and chips. Their Irish dip sandwich is go-to of mine, which I highly suggest. But they also have steaks, chops, fresh seafood. So there's something for everyone. And maybe my favorite part, they have live music there 5 nights a week with real Irish music, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. They are now open for business. So please go stop by the Field. It's at 3281 Griffin Road in Fort Lauderdale. Really easy to find. 954-964-5979 is their number. If you aren't feeling up to going out yet, though, but still want to enjoy that authentic Irish cuisine they're known for, as well as some amazing adult beverages to go to thefieldfl.com and enter code word REPS20 for 20% off your entire online order. That's thefieldfl.com. Enter code word REPS20 for 20% off your entire online order. They'll even bring it out to the car for you if you'd like. I'm telling you, I ride or die all day with these people. The GM, Jay, and the owner, Hillary, are class acts. So one more huge thanks to The Field Irish Pub and Eatery for sponsoring the show. Go stop by, tell them we sent you. I promise you will not be disappointed. Now, without further ado, please welcome a man I greatly admire, Ron Magill. Welcome to Mental Reps Podcast. Thank you for coming on, Mr. Ron Magill. It is an honor to speak with you, sir.
Oh, Brian, pleasure's all mine, man. This is a lot of fun. Thanks.
I'm a huge fan, and I just really appreciate what you do and how you do it, man. We've run into each other actually a couple times over the years at various radio stations, Paul and Ron back in the day when I interned for them, and Julie Guy. One thing I must say, you are an impressively tall man. I'm 6'2". I stood next to you. I felt like Muggsy Bogues or something.
Yeah, no, I'm 6'6". I'm 6'6". I'm probably 6'7" in shoes. People say, no, you're taller than 6'6", but I've had people come up to me and say, I'm 6'6" and you're taller than me. I just think a lot of people stretch their height. I've been measured with the stick and it was 6'6".
Okay. That's probably why all the animals respect you, isn't it? All that height. You just
or some of them hate me because of that too. The height can be intimidating. It creates a little bit of a conflict.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is what I wanted to say first. Speaking of ambassador, you're an ambassador to the stash, man. It is a commitment that I don't think enough people give praise to nowadays.
No, I've had this since I was 17 years old, man, and I've gotten more flack about it than you could ever imagine. Listen, it's one of those things where when I used to have hair, I wanted to be. I used to have long hair, and I used to look. People used to say I looked a little bit like Mark Spitz, and the guy was rocking it back then. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, well, I'll do what I can. Any help I can get, I'll do it. So the stash was there, and then it stayed, and it's never gone. And now I get everything from Mark Spitz to the porn stash.
Well, you wear it well, man. I mean, it's like it is a commitment, and it really does. It works for you, man. And what are you talking about? Not having hair? I don't have any hair. You still got hair.
Brother, I got to do what you do. I got to get it because I got like the fuzz. It's just a fuzz now. It's all gone.
It's freeing, man. I will tell you that. I get out of I brush my teeth in the morning, and I'm like out the door.
But the trouble is, I've fallen and I've got all these scars in my head, so I've got like a road map on my head. If I shave it, it's going to look like Frankenstein, man.
I'm sure you look great. Well, I know you're a busy man, so I want to get to it. Unpacking as much as we can. First off, I know that this Siberian zoo, they reported after being shut down for a quarantine over the last 2 months that the lockdown has encouraged this baby boom among the animals there. In what ways has the pandemic affected the animals at Zoo Miami?
Well, we've had a lot of babies born here, but I can't say that's something that is a result of the pandemic. Basically, it's the season. As we go from spring into summer, when they say that term "spring is in the air," it's animals get busy. Animals get born.
Yeah.
There you go. So it's the time of year. Basically, it's a normal birth cycle for animals. A lot of animals, because it's the time of rain, time of a lot of grass growing food. So there's availability of food. There's availability of the nutrients that they need. So that's why those birth cycles are timed that way, and people will think, it's because of the pandemic. I think what's happening with the pandemic, Brian, to be honest with you, is that people are really paying a lot more attention to nature. I think people, I myself would go outside and, for the first couple of weeks then, when everybody was really on lockdown, all of a sudden you're hearing all of the birds. There weren't even planes flying in the air.
Yeah.
You don't realize you become numb to this traffic of planes flying until they're not flying. And you really have this great silence. No cars on the road, no people, no radios. It really was a time to kind of sit back and listen to the planet talk. So that was kind of a really great thing. I took a lot of pleasure in soaking in nature that way. And I think a lot of people now are starting to realize it themselves. They think, I never really took the time to listen to this stuff, but it's kind of great.
Absolutely, man. I went on a friend's boat a couple weeks ago. I've never seen the water in South Florida so clear in my entire life. I hear dolphins and all sorts of different animals are like swimming further up these canals all over the world now. Like you said, the earth has been given this opportunity to kind of take a breath. And I think that's pretty interesting.
And I think it's also very encouraging because it shows us that, if we give it a chance, it can recover. Listen, I'm a realist. I know this isn't going to go on forever. People are going to kind of get back to their lifestyle, but maybe there can be a little bit of a compromise. Maybe people can maybe slack off a little bit. Even now, just yesterday coming home from work, I've been working here through the whole time. I never took an hour off. As a matter of fact, I probably put in more hours since the pandemic than before the pandemic.
Interesting.
But for the first time yesterday, I was driving home and I saw the traffic again. I'm thinking, gosh, it was so nice driving back and forth to work and making it like in 10, 12 minutes. Now it's back to half an hour.
Golden Glades.
Yeah, so all these things, there were there's a lot of ways to make a little bit of lemonade out of the lemons that we were given.
Very interesting. I like that. Okay, so I understand that Zoo Miami reopened last week, June 1st, right? So how's it going since you reopened? What can people expect when they go back? Is it business as usual?
Well, Brian, it's not really business as usual in the sense that, some things we don't have going on right now. We don't have the monorail going right now. We don't have the water playgrounds going right now. We don't have the feeding of the animals, the feeding of the giraffe going on right now. But I want to say that it looks like that might start next week.
Cool.
These things are changing very quickly now. There are, of course, new regulations in the sense that you've got to wear a mask to come into the park. But before people start going ballistic on me, because we've had a couple, I want you to understand, we require you to wear the mask to get into the park so that we know you have a mask. Okay, once you get into the park and you're able to socially distance, you can take the mask off. We need to know you have the mask so in case you want to go into the restaurant, you want to go into a place where you can't socially distance, we know you have a mask to put on. That's the reason we require people to have the mask to get in the park, just to know that you have one in the case that you cannot socially distance. But once you're in the park, folks, and this park is huge, you got 3 miles of walkway, over 300 acres of developed park, you can take the mask off.
Oh, it's beautiful. I went there early January with my girlfriend. We took the little dual tricycle trolley around. It's so beautiful out there.
Cycle.
Oh, it's so cool out there. And what's it been like you being able to walk around that place by yourself? You have that unique ability.
Well, I'll tell you, Brian, for me, one of the projects that I took on during this pandemic is something I've wanted. I've been here for 40 years now. I've been 40 years working at the zoo. One of the projects I always wanted to take on since it was built more than 2 decades ago, I wanted to do a small little documentary piece on the aviary. Our aviary here, the Wings of Asia, is the largest aviary for Asian birds in the Western Hemisphere. And we've got, hundreds of birds in there, over 70 different species, waterfalls, beautiful trees and stuff. I always wanted to do a documentary without anybody talking, just the sounds of the birds and using some really nice music to kind of give you the feeling of what it's like to be there. But it was never possible. I'd go in there, there's always the sound of a garbage truck or somebody's radio or leaf blowers. Listen, you go in there with a good sound equipment and I could hear the cars driving on Coral Reef Drive half a mile away.
Yeah.
So I really couldn't do that thing. And I said, you know what? Now's the time. The people here at the zoo, we were on reduced schedules. Most people were sent home. A lot of people were home. They weren't allowed to come in at all. All the guest services people, the concessions people, none of those people were here. But the animal science people were here. We had to care for the animals. But they were sent home early also. As soon as they were done feeding, taking care of the animals, you were able to go home. So by 2:30, the zoo was empty. So I would stay here extra hours until sunset. And I got into that aviary by myself. Brian, I cannot begin to tell you what that was like. It was like being in the middle of a Southeast Asian rainforest. And I was able to make the film I've always dreamed of making. As a matter of fact, people can go to the zoo's website on Friday. They'll be debuting the film. It's only about 12 minutes, but it depicts every species of bird in the aviary. And there's a contest going on. And the first person that can identify each species in the order of appearance in that documentary is going to win close to $2,000 in prizes.
That's awesome. I love that. Such a cool.
It won't be easy. Yeah. I promise it won't be easy.
No. Oh God, I can imagine. But that's such a cool idea. I love that. What a great way to encourage people and learning more about these things. And I know that anytime I've heard you speak about it in the past, you've said that, man, I wish I could just take young kids to these places that I've been so I can show them what it's like. And I mean, you've done an incredible job of doing that in your own way. But I know that if you can provide that for the people locally, and what a cool idea, be able to just hear, because it's the audible when you're just there listening to it. I mean, I can only imagine how much it really gets into your soul and you can feel it.
It's incredible. And I was very lucky. I had this incredible guy from Australia. A guy lives in Melbourne, Australia. Benji Jackson did the music, and it is perfect. I mean, it's just
beautiful.
Everybody who's seen it tells me it just relaxes me. Your blood pressure goes down 20 points and you just relax. And you realize how incredible and diverse birds really are.
Oh man, that's got to be like the ultimate sleeping tool, like a little sound
It's beautiful.
machine.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
come on.
really is. It's total relaxation.
I love it. Okay, so a couple other things. I know that we've been getting a lot of rain down here in South Florida, and so now I've been hearing that these poisonous toads are out and about. Should dog or pet owners be worried about that? How do they mitigate that problem?
Oh, absolutely. You know, they're called marine toads, or Bufo marinus they call them bufo toads, but that's just the genus name. These are marine toads, and believe it or not, they're not even native to Florida. They've been introduced to Florida from Central America, and they become this huge pest because they grow to these massive sizes. I mean, they can get to be the size of a small dinner plate. And they do have these venomous glands right behind their eyes, these large swellings that release a very toxic substance. And the danger is not really to humans. You know, listen, you should never pick one up. If you get the stuff on your hands and then you put your finger in your mouth or in your eye, you're gonna have a real bad reaction. Okay, it's not fatal to humans. If the venom just gets on your skin without an open wound, it's not going to do anything. You know, having said that, you should never handle these things without washing your hands anyway. But the problem is with pets, especially dogs, you know, an instinct is they see this thing hopping on the ground, and what do? They go and bite it. And they grab it, they keep on biting. And those glands are strategically located right behind the eyes there. So when their dog is biting and it's releasing this milky, viscous venom, this toxic substance into the dog gets envenomated. And basically what it is, you'll see the dog start looking like it's throwing up. It starts foaming in the mouth. The best thing I can tell you is, number one, got to get a hose into his mouth as quickly as possible, dilute it out, and then get the dog to the vet as quickly as you can. If you don't, it can very easily be fatal to your dog. It's not as much an issue with cats. Cats tend to not mess with them that much.
That was going to be my next question.
You got the same problem.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just an instinct. When you have a carnivore that looks at something hopping away, it's going to chase it and bite at it. So that's the problem. Now, how do you prevent this from happening? These animals are becoming more visible now because of the rains. These are amphibians, so they become more active when the rains are around. People will often see them on their front porch. Why? Because these toads learn very quickly that when you have a porch light on, the insects go to the porch light, they hit the light, and they fall, and they feed on the insects. So the toads learn very quickly, just wait here under the light, the food just falls down, and I eat it.
Of course, yeah.
And that's number one. So you got to try to have something maybe it's not going to attract insects to your light. But most importantly, and a big mistake that a lot of people make, is people who have dogs and cats, they tend to feed them outside in your yard. They'll put the food out in a bowl, leave it out there for your animal. Don't do that, because these toads love dog and cat food. So they learn to come to the dog and cat food. So what happens when the dog goes to eat his food and he sees a toad eating it? He's going to bite that toad just out of competition for the food, and there you have the problem. So if you want to feed your pets outdoors, let me give you a little piece of advice. And I know a lot of people are going to rant on me about this. Listen, trust me. Take the food, put it in the bowl, leave it out there with your animal for 15 minutes. Whatever he doesn't eat, take it away. People are going to go, oh, he's not going to starve because he used to pay. Listen, he's not going to starve to death, I promise you. The next time you do that, he's going to be a lot hungrier, or he'll eat better. And this will get better and better until the dog or the cat learns, listen, you have a 15-minute window to eat. You know, when we feed our kids at home, what do? It's dinner time. You put it on the dinner table, you eat. If you don't eat, you take away. You don't leave the food on the dinner table all day long because it brings in roaches. Okay? So it's the same thing when you're feeding your pets. You have to establish a routine where you put the food out there. It knows it has a certain amount of time to eat. It eats. You bring the food in, and that's it. That's one good way to avoid getting these animals in your yard.
Very informative. All right, cool. All right. Well, here's another one. My parents are in their mid-60s, reasonably good health, but they're not extremely active, especially during this pandemic. I mean, they go on their walks and stuff
absolutely.
like that. But what would be, I just been thinking a lot lately about how I thought that would be nice to possibly get them a little dog, just something to get for them that they could love and give affection to, get them out for more walks, but also be chill and not too high maintenance for them. Do you have any recommendations?
Listen, I'm a big proponent of the shelter. I mean, I really am, Brian, because listen, I see people spending $5,000 on a purebred dog that many times is never going to give them the kind of love and affection they're going to get from a great shelter dog. Now, having said that, when you have to look at breeds, you can find all breeds in shelters. You really can. I'm a person who's particularly favorable of miniature schnauzers. They're great dogs. Why? They don't shed hair. They don't need to have a big yard. Okay? They're fairly chill. They're incredibly, wonderfully loyal dogs. They're great with kids. So if you wanted to concentrate on a type of breed, that's the kind of breed I would look at. If you have a yard, if you have a place where an animal can get exercise, I mean, there's no greater dog in the world than a Labrador Retriever or even a Golden Retriever.
Mm-hmm.
These dogs are they're absolutely great dogs. But I got to say, I put all that to the side. A good mutt is the best of all worlds.
Mm.
And you will find that, listen, look at us as human beings, okay? The more we crossbreed with different people from different places, the healthier our kids are going to be. When you look at the kings and queens that have been breeding with each other for generations, there's a lot of these people sometimes they got some issues. There's an inbreeding problem there.
Yeah.
So
they have a lot of problems with hips and stuff, as with hip dysplasia.
Exactly. You get that in a lot of the purebred dogs because they've been inbred, people looking for the breed, okay? Listen, it's very hard for me because I can hardly go to a shelter because it breaks my heart because I can't take them all with me.
I know.
And it's a hard thing. But you can work with shelters, and they may be able, without you having to go to the shelter itself, maybe present you with a dog through video chats or something like that. I'm telling you, there's some unbelievably wonderful animals that will be indebted to you with their life for you to save them at a shelter. So I tell people, look at that. There are many what we call non-allergenic dogs, even a mutt. The veterinarian will tell you, listen, this is a non-allergenic dog. It's, a poodle schnauzer mix or something like that. A dog that does not shed hair, that's not hyper. Once you get into your 60s, 70s, 80s, you don't want a dog that's going to be all over the place. You want to relax a little bit. You want to chill. You want to have a dog that's going to maybe jump on your lap while you're watching TV and set his head down on your lap there, and something that you can pet because it's been proven. You sit and you pet a dog, you just feel better. Yeah. You just feel better. And that kind of companionship is really the unconditional love. I know, my dog recently passed away, but I can tell you, when you come home from a horrible day and that dog greets you like it's the greatest thing since sliced heaven every single time, it's a priceless feeling.
Your love and enthusiasm, man, for animals, it really is infectious. And you spread it to everyone that you can. I wanted you to tell me a little bit about Ron Magill Conservation Scholarship. You've raised millions of dollars. It's really impressive. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, I'll tell you, Brian, I came to work here 40 years ago. My objective was not to work for an attraction. I'm going to say something that's probably going to be a little surprising to some of the listeners, but, I am not a big believer in ever taking an animal out of the wild and putting it in captivity. I believe that zoos play a very important role, and that's from experience because I grew up in a small apartment in New York City, the son of a Cuban immigrant. My mother's the daughter of a Colombian immigrant. Didn't have much. I've always loved animals. Animals were my thing. I mean, I watched the show every Sunday night called Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. That was like my church, man. I'd watch that show and I'd dream about looking at those animals. What's it like to really see them? The only opportunity I had to see them was to go to the Bronx Zoo. And when I went to the Bronx Zoo, something happened when I looked at that animal face to face. Even though it was in a cage, there's still something that happened. It made me realize I want to work to help these animals. I want to make sure they're always around someplace. So that was my objective, to come to work for a zoo. Having said that, zoos will spend millions of dollars building new exhibits, new attractions within the zoo. And sometimes they just don't really put enough aside, in my opinion, to help protect that animal in the wild. And I got a little frustrated, even with my own zoo here. Though, listen, I love the zoo. It's my life for 40 years. I still think there's more that can be done with conservation for animals in the wild. But here's my point, Brian. If the zoo is the last place you can see an animal, we have been an epic failure. An epic failure. So with that in mind, I got frustrated that our zoo and other zoos for that matter just weren't doing as much as I thought they could to help conserve the animals in the wild. I came up with this idea that, listen, I'm going to create an endowment. I'm going to create a conservation endowment. And for those that are not familiar with an endowment is basically raising a sum of money that never gets touched. It gets invested. And from that investment, you take the dividends from that investment, and then you use it for a specific cause. So the objective was to come up with what I was going to call the Ron Magill Conservation Endowment. And the reason I came up with that name is, first of all, I have an ego. But second of all, after working here for 40 years, Brian, I said to myself, what is going to be my legacy? Am I just going to be somebody who's worked here for 40 years, collected my paycheck, and left? I wanted to leave something I was going to be able to keep on giving in what I believed in, which is primarily conservation. And that's where the endowment came in. I said, if I can create an endowment, but once the endowment's created, man, I could die the next day. That endowment is going to give money to conservation for the rest of the time. So The challenge is to create an endowment. You have to raise enough money that it's going to produce enough dividends. And that really, the bottom line for that was I had to raise a minimum of $1 million to do that. Brian, I'm a zookeeper. I'm not a fundraiser. I am not a development person. I do not ever feel comfortable asking people for money, so I don't ask people for money. What I do is I try to tell people stories about why it's important to protect this wildlife. One of my favorite sayings in the world is that we have not inherited this earth from our parents. We're borrowing it from our children. We have a moral obligation to save what we have, especially in our natural resources, for that future generation. So I don't want to have to take my kids to Africa one day and say, there used to be lions here. I don't want to have to go to South America one day and say, there used to be hyacinth macaws flying here. These are things that we have an obligation to make sure our kids can see if they so choose, in the wild, not in a cage. So I went on this mission to create this endowment, not knowing what I was doing because, again, not being a fundraiser, how am I going to raise $1 million? I started this a few years ago. I said, I'll work till I die. If it takes me 20 years more to work here, if I can raise a little bit of money. I've been very fortunate, Brian, because working with people like yourself, working with the radio stations, doing a lot of the television programs that I do, I've met a lot of people who've listened to my story and have said, you know what, I want to help you out. We created the endowment. It's a 501c3 here under the Zoo Miami Foundation, so all donations are totally tax deductible. The money that goes into that endowment never gets spent. It creates a bigger corpus that creates bigger dividends that can then be used. I'm very proud to say that now in that endowment, we have close to $2 million. Every year, we provide over $100,000 to different things. We have a scholarship at the University of Florida for people who work in the wildlife and conservation, environmental conservation department there. That scholarship goes to help them do their work in conservation in the wild. I just bought a new vehicle for a cheetah conservation group in Kenya to study cheetahs out in Kenya.
Cool is that?
I just bought a new van that was donated to a rehabilitation group in the Republic of Panama that rescues sloths and other animals in Panama, releases them back into the wild. These are the things I wanted to do. These are the key things in my life that I wanted to leave a legacy that was going to provide people the opportunity to do the things they want to do. There's so many young people out there, Brian, so many young people that have a passion for saving animals, they just don't have the tools to do it. You just need to give them the financial wherewithal to do it, and they'll do the work. Brian, it's so easy to write a check and give them a vehicle. It's so much harder to drive that vehicle around day in and day out, to go into these forests, to go to these villages, save these animals, be around the clock, feeding these animals, rehabilitating, bring them back to the forest. What I do is a cop-out now. I don't have the strength anymore to do what these young people are doing, going into these forests, working with the communities, trying to protect the animals. At the end of the day, Brian, if you don't convince the people who live alongside these animals to protect them, you have no conservation program. That's the bottom line. Until the people who live alongside these animals find the value in them and want to protect them, you can go in there and your program can do a lot of great good while you're there. And the minute you leave, all the crap's going to go back to normal. You've got to change the culture. So my obligation, my mission is to give these people the tools to change their culture. And that's what the Ron Magill Conservation Endowment is all about.
That's beautiful, man. I mean, that's got to give you a lot of fulfillment and help you sleep good at night. I sure hope it does.
Buddy, I got to tell you something. I will be honest with you. If it wasn't for that endowment, I would no longer be working here at the zoo. It gives me purpose. It gives me a sense of value. And it makes me know that long after I'm dead and gone, animals are going to be helped because of something that I planted the seed for.
I love it. Well, I have to credit you for educating me on a great many things, not the least of which is the harpy eagle. And I know that you were just talking about Panama and what you did. You just got it to be their national bird. But tell us about how your love for the harpy eagle began and why did that bird in particular make such a big impression on you?
You know, that's a funny story, Brian. It started with me as a little boy going to the Museum of Natural History in New York, which is to me the greatest natural history museum in the world. To me, it's even better than the Smithsonian. I mean, I used to spend forever in there as a little boy. And I remember going into the bird wing and seeing a harpy eagle. Of course, mounted. It wasn't live. It was mounted, sitting in this case. And I looked at it and I go, my gosh, that is just the most majestic bird I've ever seen. And I never saw a live one. Never saw it because very few zoos had them. Fast forward to my life where I meet my wife, who is of Panamanian descent, and I go down to Panama to meet her family. And everywhere I travel around the world, one of the first things I do is I go to the local zoo. And I hear there's a local zoo outside of Panama City. I said, oh my gosh, I hear they have a harpy eagle there. I'm going to go see my first harpy eagle. I go there. It was very bittersweet for me because I did see 2 harpy eagles, which was incredible. But they were in the most horrific little chain link cage you could ever imagine. It was heart-wrenching for me to see 2 of the most majestic birds to ever fly on this planet in this horrible little cage. And I went to the director of the zoo there. I said, what can we do? How can we make this better? And they said, we have no money. And to make a long story short, I said, well, who runs the money for this place? They go, the mayor of Panama City. I wrote a letter to the mayor of Panama City. And people laughed at me. They go, you're some American tourist here trying to meet the family of some woman you want to marry. And you think you're going to write the letter to a mayor and you're going to even get a response? Well, she not only responded, she invited me to breakfast to talk to her about my passion for the harpy eagle. I said, Miss Mayor, you can't have this. She goes, listen, Ron. And she was very honest with me. This is what I really appreciate with her. She was a tough cookie. She goes, I'm the mayor of Panama City. My obligation is the people of Panama. I've got potholes I got to fill. I've got garbage I got to fill up. I can't keep up with all this stuff. You know what's going to happen to me if I allocate a bunch of money to build a better bird cage for two birds at the zoo? I'll be crucified by the people of Panama City. And you know, she's right. She's right, because those people were struggling every day in day-to-day life. And I said, okay, Miss Mayor, give me the permission to go out there and try to raise the money for you on the behalf as a conservationist. This way, it's not taking money out of any budget, but if you give me the authority, and you know, in Latin America, what they do, Brian, when they give you the authority, they give you these letters and they paste on these big gold foils with ribbons on them. It's like this real official thing. So what I did was I met with the U.S. ambassador to Panama. I went to the embassy. I said, Mr. Ambassador, I need the list of every major corporation doing business in Panama. Gave me the list. I wrote a letter to all the corporations trying to solicit, saying, I need some help with this harpy eagle thing. To make a long story short, 2 weeks after I sent out the letters, I got a call back from Sony Corporation. Sony said, we'd like you to propose to us why we should help you out with this harpy thing. They flew down, the president of Sony, Mr. Akihiko Kaji, flew into Panama City to meet with me. I'll never forget the guy's name.
How could you?
I did this big presentation to him on why he should do this with his vice presidents there from Panama. And, you know, again, to make another long story short, they ended up giving me close to $1 million. We built the greatest single center for harpy eagles in the world in Panama. And it culminated in me, along with a not-for-profit group that we made called the Friends of the Harpy Eagle, Patronato de Águila Arpía in Panama, making a proposal to Congress with the support of the President of the Republic, asking them to designate the harpy eagle the national bird of the Republic. And when I started this, Brian, understand nobody even knew what a harpy eagle was in Panama. And that day, I think it was April 3rd, 2003, April 10th, 2003, the Panamanian Congress passed a law making the harpy eagle the national bird of the Republic of Panama, and the rest is history. It's now the national bird. It's on their flag. It's on their crest, the crest of the country. It's on their money. It's on everything. It's one of the proudest moments of my life. And now you go to Panama, you'll see harpy eagles everywhere. All the agencies use it as their marketing symbol. It's a proud symbol of their culture, and it's something that, again, started with just me, this gringo zookeeper, well, not gringo because I'm Cuban, but, you know, going down there and getting people to create a movement. And that's what it was. And it's something that, listen, I am not the brightest bulb in the chandelier, buddy. I got to tell you, I am not but I'm passionate. I really believe in the things that I try to do. And I think that when you really believe in something and you can get people to listen to you, you know, there's another old saying, I'm full of old sayings, that says, when the people lead, the leaders will follow. I think what we're going through right now is a prime example of that.
Very, wow, profound. All right, so I heard that, Ron, actually, I should let you describe it. I've heard you describe the bald eagle, and not such a high. What do you have to say about the bald eagle, and why do you hate America so much?
Come on, see, now you sound like Levitard or Castanova or any of those guys always trying to bust my chops. Listen, the bald eagle is a spectacular bird. It's a beautiful bird. Having said that, it's basically a vulture with a good PR agent, okay? because bald eagles, they're good fish hunters. They are fishermen. They will fish. But if they don't have to fish, if there's a dump nearby that has a lot of dead fish or a lot of other stuff that they can pick at, they'll be at the dump. They will avoid using any kind of energy they need to avoid. The greatest congregation of bald eagles I've ever seen was at a dump in Alaska, where I counted 300 bald eagles on a dump in Alaska. They will come, they will steal fish from other birds. They'll steal fish from other animals. I've been in Alaska watching actually steal fish from bears. Bears eating, and they'll swoop down and they'll take the fish away instead of hunting it on their own. So they're very smart, okay? They're very smart. So I think they're a good reflection of us as Americans because we are opportunistic. We're smart. Why take the hard way if you can do the easy way? So let's look at the positive aspect of that.
I love it. I love it. Okay, a couple more things. I'm sure you are extremely sick of being asked about Tiger King, but we've got some reports in the last week or so that Carol Baskins was just awarded Joe Exotic's land and his zoo, if that's what they want to call it. But what are your thoughts on people like Carol Baskins and how they treat their animals in their sanctuaries or whatnot? And also, do you think she killed her husband? I'm sorry, I had to.
Okay, all right, listen, and I want to preface this by saying this is just my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the deal. The good thing about Tiger King is it exposed a truly monumental problem in our country of people keeping exotic animals as pets. Okay, that guy, Joe Exotic, whatever the heck his name was, is an absolute basket case. He's where he belongs to be. The guy was a freaking train wreck. Now, having said that, Carol Baskins, to me, is no angel. To the answer to your question, I wholeheartedly believe she had something to do with the death of her husband. Where she did it herself, I don't know, but she knows what happened to her husband. There was no natural death or anything like that. I wholeheartedly believe that, okay?
You and I both.
The woman gives me the flipping creeps. I mean, when I watch it, haiku cats and kittens, I go, oh God, I want to take a shower. It's just horrific. Okay, no, really, it's horrific.
She's got that nervous laugh, like, how could I? You need sardine oil.
Exactly, she's wacko. Okay, so here's the deal. I know people who have worked at her place, and they have told me that it is a dump. There's some really horrible facilities that she has for these cats. And that all of her cats are not rescues. Like she says, I only have rescues. Well, they're not all rescues, okay? She's acquired them in many different ways. They're not all rescues. She doesn't do all that she preaches, you see. She's found a platform here with this Tiger King. She's going to ride that wave as much as she can. People watch Tiger King for the same reason a lot of people watch the show Cops. You know why? Because when you watch these shows, it makes you feel a lot smarter. You look at these people on these shows and you go, wow, I'm a pretty smart person. You know,
very insightful, yeah.
It really is. It just uplifts you. You watch this and you think, you just can't fix stupid, man. So I feel badly because it got so much attention. It got a little bit too much attention. And then you get that other element that jumps on board and says, that's me. That's why I have a tiger, because that's a cool thing to have. You know, you have a tiger, and it makes me more of a man to have a tiger. Please, this is just it's absolutely ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. People keeping these animals in their backyards, and I hope that this brain wreck of a series has a positive effect in trying to change legislation to make them, understand that this is something that can happen. Ryan, there are several states in this country that don't require any permits at all to keep a tiger in your yard. Okay, it's just not. It's not right.
That one incredible stat from the documentary that there's more tigers in captivity here in America than there is in the wild.
Absolutely,
incredible.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Really quick, seeing as you've been able to navigate the Levitard show and you've been putting it up with me today, I have to put a couple quarters in the Ron Magill animal sound jukebox, if you will. Sorry, I just can't help it. Couple of quick fires here, okay? What animal has the best mating sounds?
Oh, wow. Mating sound. I've always been very fond of the Galapagos tortoise because it reminds me of me, okay? Might remind you of you too, Brian. When the male gets on top of the female, he sounds just like this. He goes, and it's a familiar sound, so you can kind of relate to it, So
Uh-huh.
I kind of like that.
Okay.
The lions, of course, when the lion breeds, I mean, it is, understand that the lion, we're on a podcast here, so I'm going to be a little bit graphic.
Go
The
ahead.
penis of a lion has these fleshy spines on it that are pointing backwards. So when he inserts it into the female, goes in no problem. However, if he tries to withdraw it while he's still erect, those fleshy spines rape the vaginal walls. So when you listen to the breeding of the lion in the beginning, it starts off like, and then all of a sudden you hear the female like, and that's when he's pulling out and raking that vaginal walls with those fleshy spines, and it flipping hurts. So there's a lot to do with that sound. You understand, the first sounds are like this extreme pleasure, and all of a sudden it erupts into this ouch. And that's something that, is kind of interesting.
What animal scares you the most?
Well, other than human beings, it would be, I don't know what animal really scares me the most.
I guess it would be more like if you were face to face with it, what animal would make you fear most for your life, I guess?
In the wild?
Yes.
I would probably have to say an elephant. These are animals that I have the utmost respect for, probably one of my favorite animals in the world. But an elephant's an extremely powerful, extremely intelligent animal. And in a heartbeat can finish you off if it thinks you're threatening it or it's herd. And, elephants have been persecuted for so many years that a lot of elephants have in their memory bank what humans have done to them. Mm-hmm. So I would not blame an elephant in a proactive manner for taking out a threat before it becomes a threat, having the experience that generations of elephants have had to have with humans for so many years.
What animal has the most swag? And for the record, I vote alpaca.
Swag, alpaca.
They're walking around like kind of just like, "What's up, guys? How you doing?" Like they're walking into a party.
I'll tell you what. You want to see swag? Look up the. I think it's called a mannequin. It's a bird called a mannequin. The dance that the mannequin does. You want to talk about swag? That bird's got it going. Watch the love dance of the mannequin.
Okay. We are going to wrap up with some rapid fire questions and then the quote of the week, and I'll let you out of here, I promise. Thank you so much for all your time.
No worries. My pleasure.
Okay. If you could meet anyone, current or historical, and spend the day picking their brain, who would it be?
I've met him, but I'd like to spend the day just picking his brain. Sir David Attenborough.
Oh, great answer.
I'm going to show you something real quick. Hold on a second.
Please. His voice, I could listen to that.
One of the highlights of my life, one of the greatest moments of my life, when I was given the privilege of presenting Sir David Attenborough with the Audubon Medal at the Rainbow Room in New York City.
Incredible.
And that, for me, I got to sit next to him during dinner. I was the one who presented him with that medal up in New York City. And that, for me, is one of the highlights of my life because that guy is one of my heroes.
Incredible. Wow, I'm jealous of that one. That's incredible. Okay, if you had one round trip ticket in a time machine, when and where would you go? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No, I would go back to the Badlands of Montana during the Cretaceous period.
Ooh, interesting. Love it. What's your spirit animal?
The harpy eagle.
Of course. Why did I even ask that? In a world without the need for animal care or conservation, what's your dream job? What will you be doing if you weren't doing what you're doing now?
My dream job would be flying for the Blue Angels.
Wow, I cannot believe that you said that. That is one of my dreams as well. That's so cool. Yeah. Oh man, great.
Trouble is that dream crashed once I got over 6'4".
All right. Oh yeah, we wouldn't be able to fit in the cockpit, or at least you would.
You can't be a pilot. You can't. 6'4" is the height limit.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned from working with animals, which you've applied to your everyday life?
Patience and understanding that there's a good reason for everything that happens. Sometimes it just takes patience to watch it unfold, the reason why. If you have patience and understanding, it's much more important than dominating.
Love it. I know you have amassed this like incredible life and career, but it did not come without some bumps in the road. And I wanted to ask you, what's some wisdom that you can share with anybody who's listening, who's trying to pursue their dreams in a career working with animals or conservation or just in general?
It sounds so cliche, but you just got to believe in yourself, and you got to know you're going to get knocked down. I got knocked down a lot of times, Brian. I can tell you. As a matter of fact, if you look at my personnel file here from the first 5 years of people telling me what I couldn't do and me answering them back saying, screw you, I can. Getting written up for insubordination, because I'm not telling people to go out there and be insubordinate with all their bosses. What I'm saying is, when you believe in something and you know it's right, stick by it. Stick by it. And if you really love what you're doing, and this was something that was taught to me by a very, very special person in my life. He said, if you believe in you, don't seek out something because of how much money you're going to make. Seek out something because you really love to do it. Because if you love to do it, you do it well, and the money will come. And, he was so right. He was so right. Be passionate about something. Understand whatever you choose to do, you're going to spend most of your waking hours doing it. So even if you're making a ton of money, if you hate what you do, you're going to be a miserable person. Don't go that route. Find something you love to do. I promise you there is a career that will pay you to do it.
That's great. How and where can people get involved with animal conservation in their towns? And you can use South Florida as an example. And for those who may not have the time or ability, where can they donate, and what ways can people get involved?
Well, listen, I tell everybody, almost in every local place, there's a local rehabber, a wildlife and rehabilitation facility that is usually a not-for-profit facility with a few people volunteering, doing all the work, helping to rehabilitate animals that have been injured, native animals, releasing them back into the wild. Those people are real heroes. I'm not talking badly about the zoo or anything, but what those people do is so much more important when they're saving these, a possum that's been orphaned, a raccoon that's been hit by a car, a bird that's been attacked by a cat. These people are nurturing those animals, nursing them back to health, releasing them back to the wild. They need help. They need funds to help these things, because these people are doing it out of their heart. They're not doing it for any money making. Trust me, these people are the salt of the earth. These wildlife rehabbers, people who rescue dogs and cats. I know we're talking about conservation of wild animals, but these are all the same minded people. Look at those people. These are good souls. And usually, too many times, they're spending money out of their own pockets I know there are people who'd be happy to help them if they knew the good things they were doing. So look for the local rehabilitation, the wildlife rehabilitation facilities in your community, and help them out. As far as if you want to help out here with conservation, you can contact me here at the zoo, or go to zoomiami.org and just hit the Ron Magill Conservation Endowment, and they'll give you a way that you can donate there. It's totally tax deductible. And again, your money never gets spent. It only helps produce more money for conservation.
All right, it's time for Quote of the Week. I thought that you would really enjoy this one. Maybe you've heard it from before. It's from Thomas L. Friedman. It is, every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning a lion wakes up. It knows it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death. It doesn't matter whether you are a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better start running.
That's great. I love it, man.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have any favorite quotes?
Yeah, my favorite quote. As a matter of fact, it's etched here in granite on my desk here. Hold on a second here. And that is that life is not measured by the number of breaths that you take. It's measured by the number of times your breath is taken away.
That is a fantastic way to end it. I love it. I know you are, and you're, like I said earlier, your biggest goal is to make an impact in the hearts and minds of younger generations, sparking something in their brain that will make them more interested in animals and conservation. Mr. Magill, I am very much a part of that.
Mr. Magill's my dad, brother.
Ron, I am very much a part of that very large list. I can't thank you enough for coming on and spending some time with me today and being such a positive impact on the planet and the amazing creatures that inhabit it. Really, I appreciate you, sir.
Brian, I don't want to end by saying, first of all, thank you very much for those very kind compliments. I carry a huge chip on my shoulder. I say this over and over again because, a lot of times television often gives people credibility they don't deserve. I'm one of those people. I can tell you that it's the people you don't see. I really appreciate all the compliments I get, but it's the people you don't see that are working behind the scenes here, the people, the rehabilitators, the zookeepers, the horticulturists that you never see that deserve all that credit. I just talk about them now. I got the biggest scam job in the world. And that I get to, do shows like yours and talk about things and get a lot of glory for things I don't deserve when it's those people that are working so hard. So I really got to let you know how important they are and make sure that people who are listening understand. Don't get all caught up in the media thing and the people you see on television or hear on the radio. It's the people who make them look good that deserve all the credit.
If you are ever in need of some great food and a Guinness, I'd be honored if you join me. I just actually.
Where is this, brother? Where is this?
Look, we are this. You see my background here? This is.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I love it.
The Field Irish Pub and Eatery. This is the first episode that they are sponsoring of this podcast. They're really good friends of mine. They're right off Griffin Road. It is the most authentic Irish experience you will be able to find here in Florida. So if you ever need in a Guinness,
Magill, brother, Irish.
Come on,
Magill,
buddy. That's what I'm saying. I know the Cuban, but you got some Irish in there too. You got to get that out.
I do. I appreciate it, Brian. I'll be there.
Ron, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope that I see you soon, okay? And I will be, maybe I'll be running into you. I got the season pass and everything. Zoo Miami will be running into you, hopefully. And I would love to maybe do this a couple months down the road and catch up with you.
Anytime. It's a real pleasure, right?
Ron, you have a fantastic day. Thank you for coming on.
You, buddy. Be safe. Stay healthy, man.
You too. Bye-bye.